Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today I had a request to share with you my recipe for pumpkin cake. And actually this recipe goes further back than with me because my mom has made this cake for us for a long time. So it's been in our family for quite a while and I have not really changed much. So let's get started. It's a pumpkin cake and we're going to actually bake it off in a sheet pan, an 11 by 17. And we're going to, at the restaurant, we used to cut them in small squares and serve them on our petit four plate. After our customers were almost done with their dessert, we would come out with a nice little petit four plate so they can continue their dining experience with us. And this was one of our favorites that we used to serve in the fall. So, let's just talk about our ingredients before we get started. We'll first talk about our dry ingredients. 2 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. We also have 2 cups of sugar. And now we can talk about our wet ingredients. This cake calls for oil, not butter. So it's 1 cup of canola oil. We have 2 cups of pumpkin puree. You can either roast your own pumpkin and puree it, or you can certainly buy canned pumpkin puree. Just make sure there are no spices in it. Just plain pumpkin puree is what you need. And 4 large eggs. And that's it for the cake. Very, very easy to make. The first thing we want to do is get all of our dry ingredients together. I have a piece of parchment paper here on my table and a sieve, and I'm just going to pass everything through my sieve just to make sure it's all incorporated before we add it to all of our wet ingredients. So once again, we have our 2 cups of flour. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We will also add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And I like to use the fine sea salt with baking. So we're going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt. Let's just get 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in here. And then we can just pass it through our strainer. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the cake freezes very nicely. And with the holidays coming up, sometimes it's really nice to be able to do things ahead of time. This is one of them. You can make this cake, keep it in the pan, put a piece of parchment on top, saran it very, very well, and put it in your freezer. You'll be all set. So we have 1 cup of canola oil going into the mixer. We also have 2 cups of granulated sugar, and we have 4 eggs, and it can all go in at once. I'm going to put it on medium speed, and I'm going to let that go for about 2 minutes. Okay, that's 2 minutes. Now it really looks nice. It's very well incorporated. It does have a little bit of volume here. I think you can see it. It's pretty well mixed. Looks good. And now let's put in our pumpkin. As I said, it's 2 cups of pumpkin. And you just want to get this well incorporated. And then once you add the dry ingredients, your cake is done. I do have my oven set at 350 degrees, and the cake should cook between 20 and 25 minutes. I think with my oven, it's usually 25 minutes, but we'll take a look after 20 minutes and see how it's doing. Okay, we'll first start it on low. And I have my mom's cake tester. It's pretty old. I think it has seen many cakes in her day and in mine. Okay, so this is, I'll raise it just for a minute, just to make sure it's well incorporated. Okay, that looks really good. So now I'm just going to add the dry ingredients on low. It's really nice if you can put all of your dry ingredients into the parchment paper because it's easy to put into your mixer. Otherwise, you can just spoon it in as well. So let me just start with a little bit. I don't want the flour to come flying out. So I'll do it just a little bit. I do have it on low. Okay, let's get that last little bit in. And that's it. I'll just turn it up for very briefly for about 10 seconds. That looks great. It looks very nicely mixed. I'm just going to come over and show you the batter so that you can see it. So let me come around so you can see the batter. Okay, I'm going to lift it a little bit so that you can actually get a better look at it. There we go. There we go. This is an 11 by 17, which I have buttered and floured, and just make it as level as you can. I like to use, this is an offset spatula, and just go in and smooth it out. It's all set and ready to go into the oven. Okay. So in the meantime, while our cake is baking, let's make our icing. There's only a couple of things that are really important in making a really nice, smooth icing. Number one, your ingredients need to be room temperature. I have here 1 8-ounce package of Philadelphia cream cheese, and it is totally room temperature, which I'm going to get into my mixing bowl. I also have 4 ounces of unsalted butter. So the first thing you want to do is mix this very well so that it's nice and smooth and well incorporated. And then the only other 2 ingredients to add to it is a little bit of vanilla and some confectioner's sugar. Okay, I'm going to take it off and just use my spatula to go in around the sides to make sure that it's all nicely mixed. And I'm just going to show it to you at this point. You can see how soft it is, and it's pretty much there. And I do want to tell you that if you do feel as though you need to loosen your icing, all you have to do is add a teaspoon of milk at a time until you get it to the right consistency. I don't think I'm going to need to add any today. So get that on low, and I will add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And our confectioner's sugar, it's 3/4 of a cup. After you measure your 3/4 of a cup, pass it through a strainer so that there's absolutely no lumps in your confectioner's sugar, and it's nice and powdery like it is here. That will give you a really nice smooth icing. So once again, I have it in the parchment paper. I'll raise this for a second. And now I'll put it on low to get the confectioner's sugar in there. Do it a little bit at a time. Okay. And I think we have all of our sugar in, and just raise it. I think you could see that I raised it for just a second, just to make sure it's nice and incorporated. And we are in great shape. Let's just grab our spatula, and we can get it here in our bowl. Let me come around and show it to you. Here we go. Here's the icing. Now you can see it pretty well. Okay, there's our icing. I think our cake is done. Let me come around so I can show it to you. Now you can see the color. Do you see how it's nice and light brown? You've got some nice little darker spots on the cake. That looks perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for. You do want to make sure the cake is fully cooked. So I'm going to use my cake tester and just go in, and it's perfectly clean. So this is just terrific. Okay, we're all set. We'll let this completely cool, and then we can go ahead and put our icing. We're going to cut these in little squares, little bite-sized squares. And I like to toast pecans and put a pecan half right on each square. I love the taste of the nut with the pumpkin and the crunch with the nice soft airy cake. I think it's absolutely great, but this is totally optional. And of course, if you're going to make them ahead of time and refrigerate them, don't put this on, because nuts don't refrigerate well. They freeze well, but they don't refrigerate well. So if you're going to put this on, have them ready, room temperature, have them already toasted, cooled, and everything. Keep them at room temperature, and then place it on each square when you're ready to serve. Don't put this in the refrigerator. Okay, that's it. I will see you back here as soon as this cake is cooled. We'll ice it up, and then we'll get to cut it so that you can see it. So here's our icing. Okay, let's start with that and see how we do. I find these offset spatulas to be really nice to ice a cake with. So just take your time and enjoy it. This is the fun part. Actually, all of it's the fun part. Eating it is the most fun, right? So it's up to you how large you want to make. Grab my bowl, clean my knife up a little bit. Get that first piece out, which is always the hardest, correct? Alrighty. Oh, I'm definitely going to have one of these today. This is one of my favorites. Then you can put one in the center of each pumpkin's square here. Okay, I will come over so that you can see how nice and light the cake looks. Hopefully you can see that. You see it's nice and airy and very, very light. Just enough icing, I think. Perfect. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well. Bye now.